Well, I went through college in the 1950s in a rather unusual system, the Robert Hutchins version of college at the University of Chicago. And it was something that was striking out completely against the times. It gave you a broad education in all fields of knowledge, one set of courses which were unified with each other, and you didn't have any electives or anything like that, although you could take some if you wanted to pursue some of your interests. So I came out with essentially a very humanist perspective, and then I go off and get my PhD in physics and get my first teaching job at the University of Wisconsin in the early 1960s. And I wanted to teach a course for non-science majors that would really acquaint them with contemporary physics, the stuff that had happened in the first half of the 20th century, relativity and quantum mechanics and all that. And there were no textbooks for that. What we taught the few non-scientists who took introductory physics courses was a hodgepodge of 19th century physics, and it doesn't make sense to me. Well, my problem was if I taught a course like that, what would I use for a textbook? And so I approached a very wise man I knew, Philip Morrison, one of the premier scientists of the Manhattan Project, and I described to him the kind of book I was looking for and asked if he knew of such a book. He said, "Yeah, you're going to write it." And he said it was my idea, and nobody else had considered writing anything like this. So I sat down to write it. Since I was a young academic and having to be productive in my research, it did take me 3 years to get the darn thing done. And McGraw-Hill, the textbook publisher, tentatively gave it a title of something like Concepts of Modern Physics, which I thought was dull as hell. And then I remembered that there had been a course at Columbia University taught by a Nobel laureate, Polycarp Kusch, which he called Physics for Poets. And I said, that's a great title. It's in the public domain. I'll grab it. And I think that sold the book. The choice of title was the best thing about the book. So it did very well. And when you've got a textbook that does well, now very well, I don't mean like the blockbuster textbooks The Economists write and things like that that make the author rich, but it sold a steady, 6,000-7,000 copies, maybe even 10 or 15 in some years. And so after a certain number of years, given the economics of the textbook racket, and I use the term racket advisedly, they wanted me to put out a revised edition. And this went on a number of times. And the 5th edition came out in, about 10 years ago. And they inquired with me about whether I would do a 6th, and it's time to ring in a co-author if the book is going to live, but they haven't gotten back to me about it. So I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. I know who I want as co-author, and I guess that's the story of the thing. Oh, yeah, but that isn't the whole story. The whole story includes how my colleagues reacted to the book. My friends and people who thought like me really thought I'd accomplished something with this book. But the older generation in my department were real stuffed shirts, and they were the kind of people that I particularly disagreed with, because there are various reasons for going into physics, and the ones they had chosen were so they could lord it over other people, because only a superior human being can understand physics, which is something I have never believed. And so I got all kinds of flack from my department chair and other people. Indeed, my department chair suggested that I had overstepped the bounds of propriety by listing in the title page my affiliation with the University of Wisconsin, because as far as he was concerned, the book had nothing to do with my duties to the University of Wisconsin. And so that's where it stood for a number of years. If I wrote it today, I know the young faculty in the department right now would be terribly excited about it. But those characters who got their PhDs in the 1930s and 1940s, at least in the ones that wound up in my department, were really stuffed shirts.
So you unstuffed their shirts, huh?
No, they remained. I didn't affect them one bit. But the course took off. I mean, the students showed up, and I went from the first time I taught the course without the textbook, I had 30 students, and the third time I taught the course after the textbook came out, I had 300. And that the department was impressed with, because that goes up on the scoreboard for the dean, and the dean allocates new positions to departments on the basis of things like that. So a few of the old farts, if you'll pardon my saying so, had to concede that I had done the department some good. But one complained that I embarrassed the department, that the very title of the book made it sound like the University of Wisconsin Physics Department was not a place that took the science seriously.
So you've been a maverick for a long time.
Yeah, well, I come from a maverick family. It's my brother, who is recently retired as the state folklorist of Wisconsin, is working on a family history, and we've discovered that radicalism in my family goes at least as far back as my great-great-grandfather. So.
And I have a 14-year-old granddaughter who's interested in becoming a scientist. Do you have any recommendations for her?
Well, if it's the obvious thing, the science that is growing most rapidly right now is molecular biology. And it's not a field I would enjoy being in, because it's very technique-driven. You have to learn an awful lot of lab skills in order to do that kind of research well. In my own area, in the physical sciences, of course, this is an absolute golden era for cosmology. The structure and history of the universe is big news, and all sorts of new instruments are enabling us to probe deeper and deeper into the past of the universe. And it's a very exciting field to be in. And it hasn't been taken over by huge corporate entities in quite the way my old field of particle physics was.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So the other thing I've heard about you is that you were a folk singer in the 50s and wrote a song about Sigmund Freud.
Yes, that's true.
Could you sing a line for me?
Oh, Dr. Freud, How we wish you'd been differently employed, for the set of circumstances still enhances the finances of the followers of Dr. Sigmund Freud.
Thank you.
Now old Bill Jones had a daughter and a son. Son went to college and the daughter went wrong. Wife, she got killed in the pool room fight, but still he keeps singing from morning to night. Right around the little doggies, right around them slow, for the fiery and the snuffy are raring to go. Well, I've worked and hound, and I've worked on your farm. All I got to show's just this muscle in my arm. Blisters on my feet and a callus on my hand. And I'm going to Montana for to throw the Julian right around the little doggies, right around the little soul. They're fiery and the snuffy are raring to go. Well, when I die, take my saddle from the wall, put on my pony and lead him from his stall. Tie my bones to his back, turn our faces to the west, and we'll ride the prairies that we love the best. Ride around the little doggies, ride around them slow, for the fiery and the snuffy are raring to go.
Oh, that was just charming.
Well, it's sorry, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Hughie Ledbetter, also known as Ledbetter. I mean, the song pre-existed him and all that, but if it weren't for his recordings of it, everybody would have forgotten it.
Well, every night before I went to bed, my mother would say good night, Irene. So it was a very, very tender song for me. And Bob, this is almost as good as
Yes.
Good night, Bob.
Good night.